Well, the original notification was the day we arrived. And he came down and inquired if we were the new owners. I said yes, and then he just says, well, you know you have ghosts, don't you? The night before, he'd gone into his kitchen and he went to put salt in a salt shaker that was empty on the table, but he couldn't get the lid off. So he just set it down and said, the heck with it. The next morning when he got up, the lid was sitting next to the salt shaker.
I was just down there and I was looking for relic type things, and you see these bones and it's partially uncovered. And you get to looking at them and they're different from animal bones. You can just tell. And so I went and got Elvin, and he says, yeah, quit digging. Those are really people bones, as I call them. And they ended up just finding from like the hips down.
And he was engaged with Union gunboats on the 4th of June and literally was hit by a cannonball. It severed his arm, exploded behind him, lacerated his head. At 6 p.m. that evening, he passed away and was buried here.
I really do think that it's David Weeks McGill here because, I mean, we've used multiple equipment in Maggie's hall trying to get one of the other spirits, the male spirit, to respond to us. And we have actually received the male voice over our radios and other equipment that we use of a male voice, and he said his name was David.
When this was the Montessori school, the preschoolers would be in this building and they'd let them outside for recess. And when they went out, they always went to the lower corner of the lot, and that's where they would play. And every now and then when they called them back from recess, one of the children would ask why this other little girl down there never had to come in. Of course, the teacher can't see anybody. And says, what girl? And they would say, well, the little girl in the blue dress. And so that's where the story began. As we got to do an investigation on the history of the house, we also found out that McNutt had a couple of brothers that followed him here. The second brother that came had a daughter, and her name was Margaret, and she died of yellow fever here. And my wife, she was sitting out on the deck with our sister-in-law who'd come by to, sort of see what we had just made this big investment in. And her daughter, Marley, was out playing in the courtyard. She's like 6 years old. And my wife relays this story about this little girl, and Marley comes up behind him and says, oh yeah, her name's Maggie. How on earth would you know this? And she says, well, she told me. Really? Did she tell you anything else? And she holds up a dime and says, well, she told me to look under the deck for this dime.
I was asking for Maggie to come out and play. And we left some of the doors open. This is my favorite. We left some of the doors open and drawers open, and I was basically asking Maggie, hey, look, can you slam one of the doors in the kitchen? I walked back, and this cabinet door just slammed. Yes, good.
Well, it was one day we had this door and that door open, and then we had another door on this wall. And I just had just walked in, and all of a sudden the doors just slammed, just bam, bam, bam. It could have very well have been the wind, but both of the outside doors closed in. And then the door that was on this wall closed that way.
Say that again, sorry.
You ready? There was actually a full-bodied apparition spotted behind Maggie's hall one night by 3 different people, 3 different paranormal teams that did not know each other. Because all 3 times, these investigators said it happened this way, all right? They're looking down at the bottom where Miss Pam actually dug up the bones that were here, actually pre-Civil War body. It was right in that area. They said that it came up behind the bushes. I want to make sure I get this right. It came up behind the bushes, stood there, and it was a guy with a beard and looked like he had, a long trench coat on. Sat there for at least a minute and just dipped off, just faded away.
Is that Mr. McNutt?
That's McNutt. Alexander Gallatin McNutt. We do offer tours of the house, and we do ask people to give us a call in advance to schedule a tour because you never know where we're going to be out in the courtyard or wherever. And very inexpensive and lasts approximately an hour and full of information and a little humor.